Hey everybody, I'm Scott with Starkey Family Fixing Rigging Up. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and make sure you got your notifications turned on. That way you get notified when I put out my next video. Now today we are going to be working on this 2004 Mack Vision. We're going to check the front brakes, make sure they're good, and we are going to replace the front shock. So let's get to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to chock the wheels and we're going to jack the truck up. So after jacking the truck up, you take the wheel, it's off the ground. Now we're going to take the impact and we're going to take the lug nuts off. So since everyone knows how to take the wheels off and it's just kind of time consuming, I'm going to go ahead and do it. We're just going to jump forward in the video. Now with the tire and rim off, now we're going to pull the drum off and check the brake shoes in the drum to make sure they're still good. If they need to be replaced, then we will replace them. So the first thing that we need to do is to get this drum off, we need to take the slack adjuster and back it off. And what that does is it'll take the brake shoes and back the brake shoes off the drum. Now this area is kind of nasty, so we're going to clean it off real quick. I'm just using a little wire brush. And the reason why you want to do this is a 7/16 bolt head. You don't want to strip it out. So we'll get all this nastiness off of here. That tightens down, and the clicking is loosening it up. That is normal to hear. Okay, now the brakes are backed off and we can pull the drum off. So as you see, the drum is loose now, so we can just simply slide it off. If the drum is locked on there, just take a hammer while rolling it and tap on the top hinge, not hard because you do not want to break this. If you take a sledgehammer, you can actually break these. So on the lining itself, what we're looking for is, let's see if there's any hairline cracks or fractures in the pads, which I don't see on the top pad. But then you've got to check the bottom pad also. You want to make sure that the pad's not too thin. You want to check, make sure the springs are intact. Here's one of them right here. And then you got one down here and one behind here. The next thing that we want to check is actually the thickness of the pad. So after reviewing the actual brake shoes, the top section is still legal, but the bottom section is right at the border. Okay, so on a steer axle, what you're actually allowed on a big truck is a 1/4 inch in the middle. That's on a 2-brake setup, which is the most popular that you'll find. So in saying that, we are going to go ahead and change the brake shoes. So keep that in mind. If your brake shoe thickness is at a 1/4 inch or close to the 1/4 inch marker, that's when you have to change it. Anything under a 1/4 inch on a steer axle is illegal. So since I know I am going to have some people argue with me on this, I'm going to show you what the actual law indicates. I'm going to read this out to you. The brake lining pad thickness on the steering axle of a truck, tractor, or bus shall not be less than 4.8 millimeters, 3/16 of an inch at the shoe center for a shoe with a continuous strip of lining. Now, less than 6.4 millimeter or a 1/4 inch at the shoe center for a shoe with 2 pads or worn to the wear indicator if the lining has it. So I did want to show you that, and this does qualify for a 2-pad setup. So before anyone wants to argue, and right here it is. So do you see the spring right here? This is where it actually hooks into the brake shoe. That's the top of the spring. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a pair of vice grips and clamp onto that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab a hold of this and pull it up and unhook it. See how this is just a hook? That's all we did, just pulled it up. So since this dust shield is attached on the back, we don't really have a lot of room to get in there. So what we're going to do in this situation, because this dust shield is just going to be a total pain to get loose, I'm just going to take my hands, put it under here like this. Make sure you don't pinch yourself, but pull the brake shoe up. Simply pull it over, and then we can tilt it and then come in from the top, clamp onto the spring and pull the spring off. And it unhooks. And as you can see, let me try to get this off here. This spring is actually bad to begin with. Can you see that? It should be like this right here, but as you can see, it is really stretched out bad. So now at this point, all we have to do is just pull this up. It all just comes off in one piece. So I want to show you how I'm measuring this out. So we're right in the middle area of the brake shoe, and I'm measuring from 1 to 1/4. Can you see that? We're right at the borderline of that. So we've got to toss this now. So I want to show you how the spring setup actually goes. So what I was showing you before, you got your spring. That is just going to clamp on the back side here, and then it's going to clamp again on the back side on the other brake shoe. That just simply draws these together. Now, the way the front shoe is, you have this pin which comes with the kit that you actually slide through these two holes and you knock it in there, and the spring actually just hooks onto that. And there's actually a groove inside there that keeps the spring from sliding back and forth. It's right in there. Very simple. Now the way that you do this is the easy way. The small hole right up here, okay, for the bushing is where the pin goes. The big hole right here on the back side for the S-cam, that is where the double spring setup goes. Now, I will tell you in saying this, I have seen other setups where you will have, it's not as common anymore, but you will have one of these pins back here. And that was actually a different setup. I haven't used those for many, many years. I don't know if they're still for sale, but if you do a brake job on an older truck, you may end up finding that. But when you buy a new package of brake shoes, they will be set up like this, most generally. So let's check the drum out and let's see what we think about that. So the first thing that you want to look at if you're going to reuse an old drum is you want to spin the whole drum over and make sure that you don't see any cracks right in this area or off to the side or basically anywhere. If you see cracks, your drum is about to explode, so do not use it. The next thing is you want to feel on here and see if there's like any super deep gouges. This lining is pretty much flush all the way across, so we can actually use that. Now, after you use your drums maybe a couple times, if you don't change them out, this metal should wear evenly down inside the drum. Now at that point, when you have a deep groove, a deep section like this that's embedded down inside the groove or the drum, then you need to change it out. It's bad. But as you see, this is actually up a little bit higher, so this drum is still good. So for this setup, the customer has decided to get an Alliance brand, which is a 4702Q. This is a remanufactured brake shoe. So let's go ahead and open this up and see what we got. Ah, look how pretty. So this kit does have the brake shoes, and it does come with the hardware. And for those of you that don't know, this is where you can find the number on your brake shoe if it's not worn off. So I'm going to show you. You can barely see it right here, but there will be a number on there, and that will be an easy way, if you can see it, if it's not wore off, of what you actually need. Now, if anything, what they will do is they will ask you for the VIN numbers on your truck, so you be ready to have the VIN numbers. That way they can properly match your brake shoes, because in some cases there are different indicator markers on the number, and that could result in a different type of drum. So the best thing to do is to take your VIN numbers, use your VIN numbers, and match up the brake shoes. So I wanted to show you how much is actually on a new liner. So as you can see, there's about 3/4 of an inch thickness on this liner. So that's a pretty big difference when you get from 3/4 of an inch down to 1/4 of an inch. So now let's get in here and start cleaning all this up so we can start reassembling everything. So when I talk about cleaning stuff up, I'm going to use my drill and a wire wheel. And I got two different types of wire wheels. One for stuff on the side and one that we have to do straight in. So it's just like all this nastiness stuff and everything. All these pins are in good shape, so we're going to actually keep them. There's no reason to knock them out, because we can put a new set in there, but they're going to freeze right back up. They always do. So basically we're going to look at these edges, make sure that there's no gouges or anything like that, but we're just going to clean everything up. It's always a good idea to knock all this stuff out that you can. That will allow all this stuff from, instead of falling into the brake shoes, it'll allow the brake shoes to break in really nice. And it gets all that rust and corrosion out there. So let me go ahead and clean this up real quick, and I'll show you what the end results look like. So I've got everything in here pretty well cleaned up now. And I also went through and cleaned off the track for the ABS sensor and cleaned off that area, because it was pretty well clogged up. But now it's time to go ahead and put everything back together. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this brake shoe. See this pin right here? We're going to put it down in here. And as you see, it won't go down all the way, but we're going to make it go down all the way. So all we do is we tap it in place, and as you can see, it'll flip around, but there's a groove right there for the spring. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side here. And it doesn't take a major beating to do this. and just taps in place, and as you see, they won't come out. The next thing is we have a clip, and that's for these. So what we're going to do is on this, after I get a hold of it, this just simply goes in place. Just clips right there in place, and that'll hold that, as you can see. But we need to put this on, and now we can put this on under there. Squeeze it in, and as you see, it is now in place. So let's do the other one. Squeeze it in, and it just slides in those grooves. Simple. So now we're going to put the brake shoes on. So I want to show you, you put your spring on there, your one single in the center. Then you get everything wrapped around on here. And that's when you start trying to finagle it in there. Okay, so you got this side in place. So now it's time to put the little spring on. And since we have this dust guard on here, it's going to be a pain. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I did, just so you know, but I'm not going to show it because it's a little bit dangerous. I basically took a pair of angled needle nose pliers along with a screwdriver. I used a screwdriver straight in, and then I clamped it with the pliers and was able to wiggle it in here. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you're putting these springs on any vehicle, make sure you wear safety glasses. If you do not, and a spring comes up, you're going to miss an eyeball. But the reason why I don't want to show that is it's not very safe to do that. I did get it on, but I'm going to I told you what I did, but that was pretty dangerous. These dust guards, I'm not really impressed with them at all. But let's go ahead and move on, and we'll get the other side. Now I am going to show how I put the spring on this side. Put that in the bottom. Your vice grips up here top. Let me readjust these. Get the grease out of there. Lock it. Take your hand. You can go on the flat side of this and just basically pull it up and put it to the hole. Just like so. That's how easy that is. Without the dust shield, that's how easy it would be on the back side. So just keep that in mind. Now we're at the point where we can put the drum back on. And this brake job here is almost finished. We'll put the drum on, and then we'll adjust the slack adjuster real quick. So with the drum on, we're going to take the slack adjuster, flip it backwards. Should not hear any sounds. And we're going to take it till it bottoms out. The brakes bottom out in the drum like they just did. Go backwards. Now remember, we're going to go a half a turn. So let your ratchet set at the bottom. And you'll end at the top. Just that simple. So now we're going to move on to the shock absorber. And for this, we're going to use a 1 1/8 socket. There's the top one. And there's the bottom one. Now, if we're lucky, this is going to pull off. If not, then we're going to have to cut it off. That's great. So now we're going to put the shock on. Just pull out the distance of what you need, and then just slide it on. Then what you're going to do is put your washer on, put your nut on, take the impact, run it in. That one's tight. Now I'm going to have to tap the socket off. Maybe. And do the top one. So all we gotta do now is put the tire back on and then let the jack down, and we are done. I'm Scott with Starkey Family Fixing Rigging Up. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you haven't wasted your money going to a dealership and getting ripped off. So make sure you catch my other videos. Make sure you got notifications turned on. That way when I put out my next video, you can catch it. Have a good one.